Hey there, Dear Tech fam, and welcome back to another episode of the Dear Tech Podcast. Today I'm joined by Dennis DM Meador, an entrepreneur with a fascinating journey from humble beginnings to building multiple successful ventures. What makes DM's story compelling is how he leverages unconventional strategies and embraces an island living lifestyle to create opportunities in spaces others might overlook. We dive into DM's entrepreneurial evolution, exploring how geographic arbitrage, creative problem solving, and thinking differently can open doors that traditional business approaches might miss. Let's jump into it. DM, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be where I am with you.
It is good to be where you are. You're in the middle of an island. We're gonna get really into island living because I think that vibe in general is something. So I'm in the Northeast. I'm in New Jersey, next to New York, where it's probably very much the opposite.
I was gonna say I don't think it's the same vibe, but
yeah, not even close. Not even close. So we can use the island vibes at some point. But I wanna start with you from my research, you were an entrepreneur at a very young age. And I think today we would call you as, a 14-year-old who's an entrepreneur is kind of a hustler. So you were hustling at a very young age. So tell me about the first steps into entrepreneurship, and then transitioning to where that took you as a career prior to the Legal Podcast Network.
Sure. So, I grew up in a very kind of poor socioeconomic situation. And, even when I moved in with my dad and moved up a couple of steps from the situation I was in with my mom's house, it was kind of the philosophy of you have enough food to feed you and keep you alive. You have clothes on your back. You have a roof over your head. You're really from there, if you want something, you got to get it. So if I wanted haircuts more than my dad doing it and using bad clippers that pulled the hair out of my head, if I wanted clothes that didn't come from the church clothes closet, if I wanted more than just, a casserole dish set in front of me, my 5 brothers and sisters, mom, dad, usually cousins and friends, where everybody got 3/4 of one portion. If I wanted more than that, I had to go get it. So I was always kind of doing little things to make money. But the first time that I really began to do something continuously that provided for me in a way that it hadn't before was I was shoveling walks with my brother and his friend. And long story short, from the snow shoveling, I kind of realized most 12, 13, 14-year-old boys, they want to mow lawns, rake leaves, shovel snow, do a paper route, but they're shy to knock on doors and get the business and make it happen. So I just acted as a middleman, and I got the jobs. I paid them to do the work, and all the customers, for all those different jobs in my general area neighborhood became my clients. I kind of became the face of the business, and my brother and a few of his friends did the work day to day. So that's kind of how I did that for a few years. So that's how I kind of got into business ownership, if you will. It's just managing 4 or 5 guys younger than me, managing clients, and really I didn't think much about it. It was just, I need money. This is how I get money. I'm not shy to talk to people. So then fast forward a few years, and I'm in college, and I'm working, I'm working a desk clerk job, and my buddy tells me that he's got a job at a telemarketing firm making $9 an hour. This is 96, 97. So I guess that's, 30 years ago ish. And, when you contextualize your life, and then you realize how old you are as you try to contextualize it, you're like, wow, that was 30 years ago. So I start working for this telemarketing company. They put me into script writing after I'm there 3 or 4 months. I go from $9 an hour to $20 an hour. I go from set shifts to showing up whenever I wanted. And I did script writing, script process development, rebuttal writing. I was just off in this own little room by myself with 1 or 2 other people. Well, there was another group of guys who, they were working 9 to 5. They're making 30, 40, $50 an hour. And I was like, what are they doing? They were selling ads in police magazines. So I went over there, did well in that division, actually ended up managing that division, got recruited into doing hospital patient handbooks, then sold ads on maps, magnets, posters, things like that. Then a buddy of mine started a business. He invited me to start it with him. That took off. Within a year, we were doing $3-4 million on a product I'd come up with a script that I had written. with a sales process I had put together. And I ended up being able to spend the next 3 or 4 years traveling back and forth to Europe. Actually ran my company, that company, off of telephone cards and dial-up internet. And so that's how far back in remote working I go, is telephone cards and dial-up in Eastern Europe. And for the next, came back to the States, built my business up a little bit more. Me and my partner had a falling out. Spent the next few years kind of doing different sort of like consulting jobs, because now when we started to see like more towards the crash and things like that. So I could go into companies who used to just sit there and like people would call them and do business with them. Now all of a sudden their phones stopped ringing. So I developed outbound inside sales teams. I would come in, I would do it myself. I'd make a decent amount of money for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I'd set up the team. Then I would hire the team. Then I would step away, and I would usually get like a 6-month residual off of it, because I also had a parallel career in the ministry. So I was always trying to, okay, I'm going to spend a lot of time here. Okay, I'm going to step away. Now I'm going to spend a lot of time here. And I try to balance the two, but I've always been one of those kind of people. I'm kind of like all in at all times. And so did that for a while, had more agencies, more companies, social agency, SEO agency, branding agency, text message agency. This is on through different years. Again, some took off. I always say, some did well, some taught me some lessons. And so learned my lessons, things were okay. Went into the corporate world for a while when my kids became teenagers. As they began to transition out of that phase in life, I started to look again for that independence that I enjoy, being self-employed and having my own company. About 2018, I hooked up with a guy who had a business that had been in place for a while. He was doing under $1 million, had about 75 clients. And I was like, listen, bring me in as a partner. I'll do a 5-year buyout agreement with you if you feel like this isn't worth it. At the end of 5 years, we were doing $5 million. We had 400 something odd customers. And it was just one of those things that somebody got in his ear. He basically said, I'm going to exercise the buyout. I used that to I was about to get married here on the island where I live. And that's when I launched the Legal Podcast Network. Soft launched December of 24, fully launched May 1st of 2025. Now here we are. A year and a half later, we've got about 200 clients, about 50 people on the team. We did 7 figures our first fiscal year, and we'll do better than even we won't do 8 or 9 figures, but we'll go further into that 7-figure range this year as well. So I'm excited. It's done well. It's something that I heard a need for this in the market before I took it to the market, because I was doing SEO with clients, with law firms, and I kept hearing, do you guys help with podcasts? What do you guys do with podcasts? So I had a book of ideas that I keep, but that was like my number one idea. So I went into it. I started the company. I had a buddy on the island who's an attorney out of Miami that we shot and did a video with him as like a mock interview, and then another friend of his. So we had like a product. This is what we're doing. And then we just started learning, like, what does the market want and what's really going to make this product work in the market. And that's what we've been doing the last year and a half. So we've had LPN, then we did LPN 2.0, which was like not a relaunch of our product, but we added a lot to it, had to tweak our terms and agreements with clients. So while we're asking for them to make changes, we're giving them a lot of value. And then in probably a new year, spring, we're looking to kind of rebrand to go podcast, social, which we already do both of those. But we're in the process of launching a couple of streaming television networks that will go through like Apple, or not Apple, but like Amazon Fire, Samsung, LG, Roku, all of that sort of fun stuff.
Wow, that's gonna be huge. But before we go towards the future, I just really quickly, you were doing SEO and people were asking about podcasts, but can you tell me like why lawyers, or like where did specifically lawyers come from, or were you already like zeroed in on?
I have been since 2003. I got recruited into a legal marketing company, and came into it, did very well. What I've learned that I enjoy about lawyers, and I've said this 100 times on podcasts, but I like people who use logic as rule. And, like I've never been the kind of person in sales who wants to use manipulation tactics and appeal to the emotions, like, oh, if I could bring you 5 new clients, how much a month, how much would your life change? Would you be able to buy that Ferrari? Would you be able to take the wife on that cruise that she's always wanted? Would you be able to pay for your kid's brain cancer surgery? Like it's just like, to me, that's dirty. That's icky. Like, just be real with them. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I believe I can help you. Oh, you don't think so? Well, have you considered this point or this sub point? And having like a logical back and forth argument, that is one of the main niches that I've been able to kind of have that sort of level with discussion and kind of reason with them versus trying to use manipulation tactics. So that's why I've worked with them for over 20 years and why I enjoy it and do it on purpose.
I love that. Yeah, no, I mean, the whole like, if I could get you X and you could buy your Ferrari, well, like, what's that worth to you? It's very like 1998 late night infomercial vibes, mm-hmm. right? Like it's, I think we see like jokes about it on many, like Wolf of Wall Street. Whenever they're going back, it's like, all right, I saw this video and then I took this course and ended up being a pyramid scheme or something. Anyway, but no, that makes sense. And I think most people, or at least I can speak for myself, I wish that I could sell like that to anyone, because everyone isn't that logical, right? Some people, even if you go through it, they're like, oh, I had a gut feeling XYZ, right? So being able to find a population that speaks to that logical thought process is wonderful. And then, so from there, your company currently, you essentially do, aside from like physically speaking for them, you set up the entire podcast setup for them. Can you go into like exactly what they get and what the response has been from the lawyers? Because I'm assuming a lot of these people, and I have friends who are lawyers or paralegals, and not all lawyers are super excited about being tech savvy and working with AI and stuff. And I feel like some of this podcast stuff takes some of that.
It definitely does. I mean, we set up a completely turnkey system. So when they sign on for their client profile and jurisdiction. So I'm a criminal defense attorney in Fort Myers, Florida. And Fort Myers, Florida is, my jurisdiction is this 2-3 counties. And so we'll take those 2-3 counties and we'll say, okay, you're the only criminal defense attorney in these 3 counties that we're going to work with. We then sit down with them and we do an onboarding meeting where we find out about their ideal client. A criminal defense attorney could be everything from I'm stacking traffic tickets at, 100 a day in and out of court to I only want, sexual crime and murder. There's a variable. And so we kind of like dig down, like, what are you wanting more of? Oh, I want more of this, this, and this. Okay. So then what we do is many of us have been in the industry for decades. And so whether it's on the production side or me on the legal side. And so what we do is we build out a content plan based on their ideal client. And we start to do these 20-minute QA podcasts where we send them the questions ahead of time. We actually provide the host. We brand the whole show, so there's skins that are branded. We create an intro, an outro. We actually provide them with what we call a co-host, who actually is the one asking them the question, so they're positioned as the expert. And so we record that. They can do 1 show a month, which is a half-hour recording, 2 shows a month at an hour, 4 shows a month at 2 hours. We then take that, we do all the editing, the ums, the uhs, the color balance, all of that fun stuff that I'm sure you're familiar with. We go in, we take care of all of that. They look at it, we put in the skins, we put in the intro, outro, make it look really good. They watch it, oh, that looks great. Then we break it up into shorts, reels, audiograms, and static posts. For 1 show, we create 30 pieces of content. Well, 30 also happens to coincide with the numbers of days in a month. So literally our clients can spend as little as 30 minutes a month, have 1 social post a day on 10 outlets that we rotate, so it's not the same one on all 10. They get 2 to 3 pages of content. They get the release of their podcast. Their podcast is on 25 different outlets. So we're trying to create an ecosystem, because at first we just gave them 3 pieces of content and said, okay, there's your show. And what we noticed was happening is a lot of our smaller solo people were just like, I don't know what I put it up here and there and like, okay. So we used to originally only give them 3 pieces, but we noticed that our most successful shows were the ones who were marketing aggressively, who were putting their stuff out, who were making their own ancillary content. And we were like, listen, I'm just the kind of person, I don't like to charge more than the contract says, and I don't like to force them to buy ancillary stuff. Because there's nothing worse than attorneys and really any business owner. Oh, this is only, $2,000 a month or $500 a month or whatever the dollar is. And then it's almost like, oh, you mean you wanted it to work? Well, that's the upgrade package.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's how people feel.
Yeah.
So for me, I try to only create packages that have everything inside of them. And then when they sign the contract, I keep them at that price as long as they remain a live client. So now we're doing their social, we're building website content, and we actually have a full-time person that could place it on their website for them. We're putting out the podcast, 25, 30 different places. So for 30 minutes a month, they can have a holistic approach to their entire marketing program that multiplies that 30 minutes many, 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 many times over. So that's really what we're doing, is just coming in. So if they do it twice a month, they're getting 2 shows, 2 daily posts, twice the content on their website. They're doing 4 shows, they're getting 3 daily posts. So they're literally 30 posts a day across 3 times, 10 outlets. We're talking about 900 posts a month, 4 full podcast videos, 8 to 10 pages of content, and we charge our clients hundreds, not thousands per month.
Wow. Well, that's the sales pitch. All right, that is incredible.
Only you asked me to tell you what we do. How else could it come out as anything but a sales pitch, right?
No, but it's very effortless. I mean, in the sense that I want to be like, okay, I'm not a lawyer, but maybe I'll switch up what I do, and you could just go through your company, because
we get 12 to 15 people a week asking us that, and then we're like, well, we could, but you don't fit in our ecosystem, so we're actually getting ready to launch the professional media network, and then in the new year we're going to go to the legal media network. So it's going to be podcasting, social media, and streaming television channels. We're building out 2 like Netflix style to start, one for attorneys from our vendor clients, and one from attorneys to people who need legal clarification. And then with professional, we're going to do the same thing, kind of just build it out. And it looks like we'll probably end up with, all things perfect in my head, 5 networks, 5 brands, 5 ways to, 5 ecosystems, if you will, to help our clients, whatever they do professionally.
Yeah. I mean, me knowing what it takes to come up with that much content, and you only charging them hundreds and not thousands. I mean, that's incredible. All right. So, well, let me ask you on the other side of things, because initially people were coming to you, and I'm sure they still are, and your marketing people are seeing that, people who want to buy. But do you ever get someone who's like giving you a little bit of resistance in terms of what you're asking them to do, or telling them, this is how we do it? Is there any sort of resistance on that side?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody has their own way that they think things should be done. So what we try to do, and again, I'm not new to this game, and I'm not new to this niche. So I call it guardrails with collaborative opportunities. So when we bring on a client, we say, this is the way we do it. This is how it's going to be done. Now, if you have different feedback, in other words, we provide the co-host, and then they are the answer. They answer the questions. Why? Because that's what we're using for authoritative positioning. But if they say, well, no, I want to be the host, and I want to have people on, and I want to interview them. Okay, not a problem. We can set that up. Tell us who your guest is. We can prepare the questions. So we try to allow room, but for people who don't say any different, it's like, okay, we send every Monday, here's your stats and data. Here's what's coming out this week socially. Here's when your next show is. Here's when you need to schedule for your next podcast. But we put right on there, if we don't hear back from you by Thursday at noon, that's you telling us, auto post, it looks great. Now, we've had 3 sets of QA go over before it gets to them. We're not just whipping this up on Opus Pro and throwing it out there and saying, well, if it's bad, it's your fault. We don't use Opus Pro anymore, but, the way that I teach is AI, outsource, USIs. And then behind the USIs is the boss of the USI. So if something goes out and we lose a client, I directly hold that department head responsible. And then he has to trace back who didn't really check their stuff. who didn't send it back? Was this something that, you know what, it was kind of hard to catch that one? Or was it something where it was like, how could you not? Like I saw one the other day, and this is just funny to me because I used the phrase on the reg. Are you familiar with that phrase? Like regularly is what it means. Yeah, on the reg, right? I looked at my, because it was a thing done for me. I looked at my captions and it said on the rag, and I was like, that is not what I said. So it's little things like that where, unless you have highly trained eyes, you might not catch it. Now my stuff is actually put through a different system. It's a little less strict than my clients. So I had to be like, hey guys, this got missed. And I went to one person instead of three. But yeah, I mean, that's what we try to do for our clients is we try to make it where they just show up, everything happens around them. And then we've got tons of people doing all we can. But when they don't like the system that we have, there's really only two choices. A, we make an adjustment to the way they want it. And if that's possible, we will do it. If it doesn't gum up our systems and ruin what we're doing, sure, let's do that. But if it totally changes the way we do things to where when that client comes along, we basically have to shut down the assembly line and custom make that, I'm like, okay, well, that's going to cost more money. Like I had one guy the other day who said, well, I don't want to do a full half-hour show that turns into 15 to 20 minutes, 17 to 21 is what we say. He said, I want like a 10-minute concise show. Can I just show up for a half hour here and a half hour there because we have 1 hour blocks? Well, the reason we have 1 hour blocks is we want two shows done at once. So part of me was like, no, you either show up if you can't give me an hour, what are we working together for? But then I was like, well, wait a minute. If he just wants a 15-minute shoot that turns into a 10-minute show, then we can still accomplish the same thing in half the time. But I still have to pay all my people for that time. It costs me the same. So I always tell people my products aren't a la carte. You can't go, well, I don't need social. Can you take off $100 a month? Well, I don't need this part of, I have my own audio editor. Can you just do the video? I'm like, listen, we do what we do. It belongs to you. You own the IP here. So if you want to change it, that's up to you. But we're going to do our job. We're going to fulfill our contract. Because I don't know if you've worked with attorneys very much, but the moment you don't fulfill that contract, you're just looking for a fight.
Yeah. No, but I think in general, like if you are coming into a proven system, right? And because if it's a system that works, you have other clients that are doing it. For me as a client, that's stuff I don't have to think about anymore. And it's just like, all right, let's just follow the system, right? And then later on, if you want to make changes, that's fine. You have experience now. You know what's been happening, what the data is. But when people come into a system and try to make changes before even seeing how it's going or how it's going to go, that's unfortunate for them. For you, it's like.
When they are like, when it's ridiculous or it's like it makes no sense what they're asking or whatever. Like I've had some people be like, well, I've been writing blogs for years. Can't you take that and then just use like a fake audio and then create? And I'm like, no, we can't do that. Like that's just not how it works. And so, we end up probably turning away 30% of the people that come to us just because they have some sort of like box that they want us to create for them. And yes, we have a box that we can expand and contract out a little bit, but we also know what works and what's successful. Like, we want people, well, how much for a Joe Rogan style, where I sit around for 2 hours and I'm like, okay, it's about 4 times what we charge. What? It's only an extra hour. I'm like, yeah, but then I got to have all this. I got to have this. And how many shorts and reels am I creating out of this? How often are we putting this out? Like, you're asking me for something so far outside of my box that I, again, know works. And, you just want to go to some custom podcast company. It's going to charge you $10,000 a month. Well, I can't afford that. Well, you don't get it both ways. Yeah. You don't get to go, I want a Ferrari that goes 250 miles an hour, but I want to pay for a Honda. You don't get that.
No, again, some people will realize that in their own field, but when it comes to, as soon as you take them out of it, they don't get it. But anyway, you mentioned AI earlier. Talk to me about how you utilize AI and how you've had to like maybe, train some of these people how to use it, how to utilize it to come up with better content. How's that looking on your end?
Well, I mean, I never train my clients anything other than how to be better on camera and actually show up to their sessions. But internally, we've really embraced AI from the start. I actually have a young man who he lives in South Africa. He used to live across the street from me here on the island. And I met him in his coffee shop one day, and it was his parents' coffee shop. I knew his parents fairly well, didn't know him real well. And his mom was like, "Hey, can you chat with him? I know you do something internet or something. He says he wants to do a job on the internet." So I went down. I sat. I was like, "Hey, man, like, what are you looking to do?" He's like, "I don't know, marketing or something with, I don't really know." And I was like, "Well, you should research AI." This is about 2-ish years ago. I'm like, "You should learn about AI." And he's like, "Okay." So then, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months later, I'm sitting across from him, and I was like, "Oh, hey, man, how's everything going?" He's like, "Oh, good." He's like, "I took the AI courses you told me to take." I was like, "What do you mean you took the AI course?" He's like, "Well, I've taken 10 or 12 so far. I feel like I'm getting it." And I, on the spot, was like, "You want a job?" And he's like, "Yeah." So now he's worked for me full time, maybe going on a year now. I don't know how long it's been. Life is so fast and short simultaneously that you just can't, and especially when you live on a little island and not a ton happens, life tends to just be like, was that yesterday or 3 weeks ago? But he's been working for me for a while now. We are instituting it into our podcast. We have 4 episodes finished, almost in production. We want to create another 4 or 5 before we launch. But we have a show called BAM, Building Authority Through Media, and I'm Bam Man. And we literally, the first series is Journey Through the Land of LinkedIn. And I took 4 LinkedIn legal influencers, and I created a narrative style superhero comic book podcast from like the late 80s, early 90s, like from my childhood, and basically created this show where I create the narrative as Bam Man, then I meet up with them. We conquer different things that we've set up to conquer. That way they can talk freely, but I can take us on a journey. And then with that, we're combining actually AI, like cartoons and B-roll. And you got superheroes flying, and it's just like a fun little thing. But what I'm trying to prove is that I firmly believe that podcasting, and really I'm going to call it, self-casting, because I think we're now to the point, it's not just podcasting, it's video, it's social, it's everything combined. But like self-casting is going to be something that, just like every other medium, radio in the beginning, remedial, not hyper entertaining. As time progressed, what did we see? Television, same thing, very remedial. As time progressed, the budgets and the production value and everything went up. Well, I think that's going to happen with podcasting, and it's going to go video. It's going to be a full entertainment form, and people are going to be able to become stars from their own 8x10 room, like I'm standing in, with a TV behind them and some lighting in front of them and one DSLR. I could have less than $5,000 in this room, and I could probably, as far as the production look and feel, look like a CNN or something comparable. And so I think that's the future, is not just content. Are you still hearing me? Because I'm seeing red on my thing.
I hear you.
Okay. Maybe that should be better, though. Is that better?
It's let me just make sure that everything, it's fine on my end. Yeah, sounds good.
That's weird. Maybe I'm talking out of my headphones. I just don't know it. But anyway, so with AI, we're putting it in every system. Like we're looking at it. We use it in our CRMs. We're using automations, and I think that's another funny thing is how many people over the last year have sold automations as AI, just because people didn't know what they were. And it's like, dude, you're just selling automations. I'm no dummy. But like between automations and AI, it is a relentless pursuit within my company. We say internally, better, faster, less friction. And that is what we are always seeking to do. We want to be better at who we are collectively and what we do singularly. We want our clients to have a better experience with us. We want to be faster. You could be really good, but it could take hundreds of years. It could take years to carve a beautiful chair. Mm-hmm. So being better isn't the only end game, but to do it in a faster way and to do it with less friction, both internally with our systems, with our people, but also for our own clients. We want them to feel like, and this is just easy. And so we're automating and using AI and using all these different pieces, each and every step of each internal process and each client process to refine that process to where, and honestly, we've really been aggressively doing like testimonials with our clients, and I saw 3 in a row where they all literally were just like, man, it's just like so easy. And I just came on and they made it so easy for me. All I do is show up and talk and they take care of everything. I'll be honest with you, my friend. Like the first time I saw that, and these were all clients I didn't sell, I didn't interact with. They were all just built on my principles for the company. Literally sat at my desk and cried because I was like, they get it. My team gets it to the point that our clients experience it. And to me, there was just nothing better for me as a business owner than that moment where I realized that my vision, my desire for my client's experience is being put in place in a way that even the clients themselves, that's the first thing that they mention.
I mean, that's the definition of like having the right mindset going into business, right? Like understanding that your client's experience and what your goals are and what your client's experiences are the same without you telling them what it should be. Because a lot of companies will come to you and tell you what you should feel based on the experience, and then clients might regurgitate it or whatnot. But when you're just doing your job and getting that response, I mean, that's the goal. Wait, so the funny thing you mentioned earlier, because this is something I actually spoke to someone last week about, is that automation and AI get mixed up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't understand. Well, one is what you said, right? People sell automation as AI, which, come on. But the other thing is automation has actually been around for so long. And if you just utilize it the way it's been made, you can feel like you're in the future, right? But it's not that,
Yeah. So it's like when we all went on Zoom during the pandemic. People were just like, wow, I could talk to people all over the world. And it's like, I've been trying to get you on this stupid flipping thing for 6 years now. You know what I mean? Like, because I've been selling to attorneys virtually for decades. Mm-hmm. So I remember before the pandemic, like I tried GoToMeeting and, because it was more of a brand name. They'd be like, I'm not giving you access to my screen. You're going to steal my files and know who my clients are. And like, it's like, I don't even know what I would do with your information, but okay. Yeah. Yeah. But like, that's what it was before the pandemic. After the pandemic and during the pandemic, me and my old partner, during that first year of the pandemic, we grew the company by over 50% because we were already remote. We were already set up to do business that way. So while everyone else is scrambling around trying to how to figure it out, the first thing we were able to do is create a course for lawyers on how to run a firm virtually. Wow. And we sold a bunch of those just while we were getting them used to the way that we do things. And then we started bringing them in as full-fledged clients instead of like a one-off $2,500 or $5,000 program.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's hilarious because I think I was in like high school when we were like Skype has been around forever and Zoom, everyone, it's like, oh my gosh, Zoom. And it's like, we've had Skype since like the single digit 2000s, like 2000.
Yeah, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean, I used it in early 2000s because one of the programs that I was a part of, we said, well, this is like Skype and a BlackBerry for your. It was like a VoIP program, but it ran like ads. It looked like a BlackBerry and it ran ads on it. So it was free Skype, ad supported, and then we'd use that to like build databases and stuff with emails.
But everything's fun because then there's like Slack and it's like, oh, Slack's cool. I'm like, yeah, have you heard of AOL Instant Messenger? Like these things have been around, right? This is not new. I think the companies have just gotten better at making money off of them because the thing was like things like AIM or Skype, they weren't really making money unless you went pro. But now, I mean, it's a better way to make money. I also want to go because you've talked about authority-driven podcasts that attract ideal clients, right? And you talk about giving them the questions and things like that. But how do you ensure that they are picking up the right clients from these podcasts and from this all the different pieces?
It's all based on it's based on building the client archetype and then building the content plan around it. So another example would be, let's say that, I am a divorce lawyer in DFW, Dallas Fort Worth, and, I come onto the Legal Podcast Network and then I say, okay, well, tell me about your practice. Well, we're family law. Okay, well, family could be custody, it could be grandparents' rights, it could be, divorce, it could be, you know, uh, amicable divorce, simple divorces. Like what specific? Oh, well, mostly we're divorced. Okay, so do you want simple divorces? Do you want, kind of like people in their 30s, like not a lot of assets? Maybe it's a little ugly around custody, but you're probably not going to make a ton of money. Or are you more looking for like high asset divorces, people in their 40s, 50s, something like that, where they're breaking up a bunch of property, maybe even having some ugly custody? Like, where do you really want to be on that spectrum? And then they're like, oh, well, I want the high assets. And not all say that, but if let's just say they said that, then what we do is we take and we research based on keyword research, also based on historical data that, I've done this for so long and I've worked with attorneys for so long, and with my former agency, we used question-based search. So we're using query-based search questions for our clients. So then we have a session, going through a divorce, what to do, or how to make sure you get the boat. And then we talk about like, hey, if I'm the guy, I want the boat and I want the lake house. I don't care if she gets. So how can you make sure that, how can you position yourself to get what you want in this situation? And then maybe, the attorney would speak to it and say, well, I've had some clients that have done this and some that have done this, but generally what I've seen that works the best is this. For a boat specifically, if she's never been on the boat or she only goes twice a year, but you go 8 times a year, then you can, and I'm just making this stuff up.
Sure.
This is not case law, but you go 8 times a year, she goes twice a year. And, so because of that, like you can prove that you have more affinity and usage and blah, blah, blah for that boat. So it's like things like that we try to get really granular with the exact issues that their client would have. So if we're going after high asset divorces, we're not doing a podcast on how to save money on your divorce, because the people that we want to hire our clients are not people that shop by price. They're people that shop by result. And the more that attorney can identify that they can bring them the exact result that they want in the exact situation that they're in, the more likely they are to align themselves with that attorney.
That makes a lot of sense. And then, so when they're going through, answering the questions and things like that, how much coaching are you doing with them in terms of like how to?
I mean, these are professional speakers. I mean, that's another thing, especially if they are client facing. They're either sitting constantly across the desk talking to clients, or they're in courtrooms talking to people. So these aren't, engineers or coders or something where we're trying to get them out of their little bubble. For the most part, now some of them were like, hey, maybe you want to write your answers out ahead of time. Maybe you want to buy something where you can have the answers next to the camera, where you're not looking down and reading the answer to the question every time the question comes up. So we do some coaching. I have a producer. Actually, we have 3 or 4, but our main producer, she produced a podcast for Stephen King. She produced a podcast for David Cohen, the Trump guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Yeah. When he was on House Arrest, she's worked with Spotify and iHeartMedia. So like, her and her team, they like get to know the attorneys. Who do we need to pull back a little bit? Who do we need to push a little bit? Mm-hmm. Who do we need to be a little more excited because they're a little bit dead? Who do we need to calm the room because they are overly excited? So we take those notes, and we also in the beginning try to match them up with the right host. Mm-hmm. But even so, we use our hosts to kind of like balance them out so that at the very least 50% of it is interesting. But really, they're going to be able to bump that attorney's likability up just in the conversations themselves. So our hosts that we provide are very key. They all have to have years of experience, on-camera experience. These aren't our buddies and our friends. I have 50 people in my company. I've met 3 of them face-to-face. So and I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my sales guys I've worked with him business-wise. He's the one who recruited me into legal marketing in 2003. We've met one time, and we've probably worked together in the last 22 years, conservatively 15 to 16 years side by side. And we've met one time.
I mean, you were ahead of the curve with remote work, I think. And the funny thing is, like, I've actually met several people similar to yourself that have been remote for many, many years. But I don't understand how it's still, even till 2025, it's to some people it's still like, oh, I don't know how you do it, or how, I need the office. But I digress. I do want to get into a little bit about, because like you said, you've been doing this for a really long time. How do you stay curious, and how do you prevent burnout? And mind you, living in Belize is definitely a great way to not be burned out. I totally get that. But in general, I mean, again, since you've been remote for as long as you have, it's not, it's something that it's the monotony can still come back, right? Because it is still the same thing that you've been doing for as long as you have. How do you stay curious, and how do you prevent burnout?
So preventing burnout, number one is, I think there's a big difference between an office job in your home and a remote job. A lot of people just have an office job in their house so that they don't have to pay for a babysitter, or they can take their dog out when they need to, but they're still punching the same 40, 60 hours a week with stress and everything else. I'm very much a proponent of more of a lifestyle business, and I have been throughout my career, even since my early 20s. What I do is not who I am. What I do enables me to be who I am. So I travel a lot. I went to Thailand and Bali earlier this year. Next week, we're going for 7 weeks. We're going to go to Germany, Austria, Hungary, blah, 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 a bunch of little countries over there for about a week apiece, and, enjoy that. But it's a sustainable way of traveling. Every day from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, guess what my wife has set up? Our schedule allows me to get on the internet and be with my team 3 hours a day. Look at my reports, answer the questions, get in and do what I need to do. If I need to jump in and do a quick audio podcast, I don't do video podcasts when I'm on the road, but if I need to do an audio podcast, meet with my team, whatever I need to do. So I'm not just going out there and so I believe in the best way to not burn out with remote is get out of your office, get out of your workplace, and understand that work fits into your life, not the other way around. And when you start fitting work into your life in a way where you still accomplish what you need to accomplish. Listen, this isn't an excuse for 30% productivity. But why should I sit in an office and do all this stuff if I could be just as productive and accomplish just as much as I need to for myself, my company, and everything else while I'm on the road? Sometimes when we travel, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., I'm working. We're renting Airbnbs, and we've done the East Coast and traveled for a few months. And we would get into an Airbnb on late Friday night. We'd be there all the way till the next Friday, and then all the weekend we'd have fun. During the day I'd work. I'd get done with my day. That evening we'd go out to a restaurant, maybe go out and do something, and we would experience these areas, even though I was still working full time running my company.
I think that distinction is something that very, very few people talk about. And honestly, I wouldn't even, mind you, I've definitely told people that, if you're remote, you should be able to work from an island if you wanted to, and I meant Hawaii, on a vacation, but you moved there, which is, again, dream come true. But I think that most people today, when they think of, I want to be remote, they're doing what you're saying. They're just switching out the office for their house just so they can, again, grocery shop at lunch if they need to, or walk their dog, which to them is freedom, right? That becomes
and if that works for them, great. But to me, that's what I wanted from remote work.
And the thing is, they won't know if it works for them or not in terms of the switch, because we're not even programmed to even think about it. That I can fit this around my life as opposed to fitting my life around it, right? I think it's amazing, and honestly, I've realized now that I'm in this room more often than I should be, and I'm remote, so I could go anywhere and do anything, but I work from here mostly, so I'm going to make that change as well. And all right, so. How, in terms, because in the podcast world, there's a new thing. You mentioned Opus recently. There's a new product that comes out every other day. You can make your clips better. You can just do AI. How do you stay with the trends but not chase shiny? How do you stop that? And then if your clients come to you and say, "Hey, I heard I can use Opus Clip and make 30 products as well. I might not need you guys, all that stuff." How do you go about discussing that?
The second that stuff comes out, I send it. I have 2 people on my team. One who's the director of fulfillment, who oversees about 19 or 20 people who do the shorts, the reels, all of that, to see how it could be applied. And then I have my AI guy, the one I was telling you about earlier, and I send it to him and I say, hey, test this out. See what it is. Is it good? Is it bad? What's the pluses? What's the minuses? And they'll get in for a day or two. They'll do research and they'll be like, okay, here's the pluses, but here's where it really would hurt us. And so sometimes they're like, this is a great tool. We need to do it. I'm like, all right, how can we implement it? And then sometimes, more often than not, they're like, nah, like, and let me just give a little bit of a piece of advice that I've noticed in this last year. Every time there's a piece of news that something is going to exist relatively soon, this new AI thing that does this thing, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, not nearly as bad, all of a sudden you'll have these like pop-up companies that have a shadow product that aren't really what's coming, but because everyone's looking for it, and then they'll sell it for like, why pay the coming subscription fee of $300? You can just pay $47 one time and download this, and you'll never need another video editor again. And it's like, let me just tell you, if you are looking and you're looking at a tool and you're like, now, wait a minute. Now, more often than not, we haven't ever really seen this, but like, look behind. Who are the founders? Where are the founders? What are the other products they've done? Google the other products they've done. Google the name. Because a lot of times, like, I've Googled a guy and it's been like 8 software companies that he started, where you just have I paid him $199 and never heard from him again. And it's like, literally, and that's their business model. They're just sitting somewhere in the world where if they can rip people off for $5-6 grand a year, they're happy. And so really, that's the first thing I would say is watch out for that. But even beyond that, for us, like I said, what we do is we're constantly testing. And I just have my feeds. I'm always in feeds. I screenshot something and shoot it off to whoever I think it might help. I'm like, check this out. Try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, keep using what we're using. Because, again, we're always trying to get better, faster, less friction.
I think the shadow company thing, I think it's happening. Well, now it's happening more and more. But I remember when ChatGPT first came out and it wasn't on iPhone yet, there were these companies that were releasing ChatGPT, and it was like 4 or 5 companies. And it was like, oh yeah, like $5 a month. But the thing was, the real ChatGPT wasn't out yet, but people thought, oh my gosh, I found it. I found ChatGPT. Yep. And they were quickly making whatever, like, a few $1,000. They were sitting somewhere that's a lot of money for, and then they shut it down, start a new company, and it just keeps happening. But that absolutely makes sense. And but I do think that because of these Instagram ads, and you can go straight from there to a landing page to paying for it all in one shot, people don't do the research. They're like, oh my gosh, it's only $29 for this amazing tool that should cost hundreds, buying it right away. And that's where you end up slipping. Let's talk about island living. Tell me about what it's like and what drove you to full-time move to an island. And then how does the again, island vibe or like that mentality affect the way that you build relationships?
Well, I don't think it's changed the way I build relationships. I've always been a relationship builder since a kid. I was the 5-year-old who was friends with everybody. I was the 10-year-old who was friends with everybody. I was the 20-year-old who's now I'm the almost 50-year-old who's friends with everybody. And when I was 5, they could have been 50 and been my friend. And now that I'm 50, listen, if it's a cool little 5-year-old dude, he's going to be my buddy. Like, I just meet people as I see them. So I don't think the island really has changed that for me in any way. But as far as island living, what it did for me, and there's a couple things. Like the island that we're on, you have to fly. It takes about $100 each way. You got to fly 15 minutes to Belize City. Belize City, if you want to go anywhere in the world, then you got to fly to Houston or Miami. That's about a 3-hour flight. So it's like living in a small town, 25,000 people on the island, 25 miles long, a mile wide. It's forced me to, number one, I can't be nearly the consumer I was. Like we go to the U.S. and it's like wherever we're going, we get there and there's a wall stacked with Amazon that my wife has done. And it's stuff we need for the island. It's not just silly stuff. But like when I lived in the U.S., like what do you do with your spare time? Like what are the main things to do in the U.S. with your spare time in everyday America? You can go out to eat or you can buy some stuff, right? So I was a foodie. Like I ballooned up to 350 pounds. I was an influencer in Austin Texas for food and all that fun stuff. when I moved to Tulsa, I wasn't in a relationship at the time, and I'd always said to myself, if I was just on my own, what would I do with my money? People would ask me that because I've always given my family, I see myself as a provider. I'm not trying to like get for me,
Sure.
but so I went in on my sneaker collection. I was like 35 pairs to start. And most of those were like Ross pickups that were kind of cool. You know what I mean? Because as a dad, you can't go spend $300 on sneakers and not get all your kids $300 sneakers.
Yeah.
But now my kids are grown up. I'm like in and out of all the sneaker shops. I ended up with like 160, 170 pairs of sneakers within like months. And I had one room. I had them stacked up the wall. I bought the cases. I did all that. Well, guess what? When I came to this island, I have not bought any shoes since I moved here in 3 years. So it forces you to kind of like get rid of extraneous opportunities to waste time. And it forces you to find a way to enjoy time and be quiet without going everywhere and doing everything. And so like it's been rainy the last 3 or 4 days. We're just kind of stuck in our house. But when we get out this weekend, if it's sunny, like we're going to go to the beach or we're going to get in the sun. And so that's nice. What is really nice is I can pace my things that I enjoy. Like I go snorkeling here and there, maybe every couple of months. But, you go snorkeling every 3 years when you live in the U.S. My wife, now, on the other hand, she loves scuba. She's got like 50 dives or something in since we've moved here. So that's what she does. But for me, island living has made me a better entrepreneur because it's forced me to focus. It's taken away the extraneous activities that I enjoy on a larger scale. And it's forced me to be more focused and internal on what I want to accomplish. So island living has been great for me. Plus, my stress level, just the general way of life, of stress here, my blood pressure was already, I think 120 over 80 is like what it's, like high what it's supposed to be, right? Mm-hmm. Mine dropped to like 90 over 70 or something since I've lived here, my blood pressure. My wife, my resting heart rate, like, because I have this like Aura ring, right? Mm-hmm. And I was showing my wife my resting heart rate. She's like, your resting heart rate is 58. She's like, that's what free divers try to get to so that they can dive like 40, 50 feet down. And I'm like, I don't know, just island living. What can I say? Just chill life. Yeah. So that's island life to me. I hope it helps give people some clarity on it.
I mean, that sounds like a great recommendation, and I think you've sold me. I need to figure that out. That sounds great. All right, so a couple more things, and then we can start wrapping up, because I do have two things that I want to ask no matter what. So the first one is, can you give some advice for someone who's thinking about leaving their job to start something new? And mind you before you started this business, you had several businesses under your belt, and you worked corporate for a little while, but this was something you're already comfortable with. But from the inside looking out, right? Could you give some things that because there's a lot of people, and especially like you said, right, today's day and age, whether it be a podcast or whether it be something else, a lot of people have the agency to go out and build something for themselves. Now, whether or not you're leaving your job first and then building, that's a different question. But there's a lot of people that are thinking about these things, and there's some things that everyone thinks about, and there's some things that people just don't think about in terms of like whether or not one should make the shift. So when it comes to leaving a stable job to build something new, what are some pitfalls to watch out for? What are some things you should definitely do, not do, and anything that comes to mind?
I would say, first of all, if you aren't a revenue generator, then you need to move a little slower. People that can generate revenue can move a lot quicker. I mean, that's just reality. Mm-hmm. I earned the first $1 million for my company while running my company, while hiring, while setting up processes, while everything else. Why? Because sales is like my wheelhouse. It's easy for me. So if you're not a revenue generator, then I would use a measured, timed approach. But if you are a revenue generator and you have a product that you believe you can, if you just put time into it, you can generate the revenue, then I like to say, like, I don't believe in side hustles. I think Eminem said no halfway crooks, right? So it's like, you got to go all in on this stuff. It's very hard to be successful at something you're not really giving a lot of effort to. Yeah. And so while some people can just like come home at 6 and work till midnight and do what they need to do, it's structured different. Hey, that's a different game. But like for me, anytime that I've, thought about going out is it's just like, okay, what do I have? Can I sell it? I think I can sell that. All right, let's go. Let's sell it. Because revenue cures a lot of evils, especially in the beginning of a company. You can tweak that logo and you can move that letterhead and you can go from shade blue C3 to C4 and you can spend months doing nothing and accomplishing a lot in your business. And so that's what I see happen more than often is people start a business. What they really start doing is another office job where they're working for themselves and there's no real person running the company. They're just like doing a bunch of little odd jobs to feel better each day. And it's like, what did you do to drive revenue? What did you do to prove that what you're doing is needed? What did you do to make what you're doing better based on your client feedback? Like, what are you doing to actually create momentum versus create pieces of a company?
That's huge, because I think this is everyone. 100% of people that have not started a business before will sit there and be like, "Oh, I spent and honestly, I've done this in the past. It's like, "Oh, I spent 2 weeks building the website, and then I spent another month making sure the logo was good, and then I made sure I wrote down a very detailed business plan and all that stuff, and it takes 3 months, and you probably have a beautiful back end, but you haven't sold anything, which means you haven't done anything, which means your business is 3 months out of runway and all that stuff. I think just getting up and selling your stuff, whatever that means for your business, because it doesn't always mean one-to-one selling, but it might mean hiring people. It might mean hiring salespeople. It might mean marketing.
It might be going and like on Upwork and, developing a client base like that. And even Fiverr, they call Fiverr, but it's not Fiverr anymore. It's
not.
It's Upwork, just with a different layout.
Yeah, Fiverr hasn't been Fiverr in a while. I think I went there once and I thought it was going to be really cost effective in it. Well, not that it wasn't cost effective, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But no, going out, and I would say like one mistake that I've made. So I just launched a recruiting agency for product managers in tech, and like my first month, I was doing that. I was taking my time and like making sure things were good, which some of it had to be. But I spoke to someone who helps basically coaches. Recruiters or recruiting companies. And he's like, "Did you talk to a client yet?" And I was like, "No, not yet." And he was like, "You know how to talk to clients. You know how to sell to clients. Just get on the phone." And I was like, "Good idea." No, that's incredible. And I think the first part of your advice is something people actually don't say a lot, but that's facts. If you're not someone who can drive revenue off the bat, which a lot of people have good ideas that will work eventually, but they're not there yet in terms of the sales aspect. Being a little slow isn't a bad thing for those people. You just have to know what needs to get done for you to get to the point where the revenue is being generated. If that's not you, you need to have those things written down, kind of work with the end in mind type of idea. Love that.
I'll give you a little hot take on something you said about ideas. To me, ideas are worthless. I've got notebooks full of them. I have great restaurant ideas that I'm never going to start a restaurant a day in my life. I don't want a 4% net margin after I work 70 hours a week. Like, I've got great ideas for other types of businesses that parallel what I do. I put together my wife's, she's a PADI certified mermaid instructor. And I put together like kind of her whole business, like, okay, here's how you can charge this and this and do this and this. And, she doesn't want to do it because she's a teacher and she's just like, I want to give it away. But like ideas are worthless without execution. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks that the value is in the idea. Like I get a client online, he's like, "Oh, I got this thing I'm going to do. I need you to sign an NDA if you even want to hear it." And I'm like, "You know what? You're not my client." And they're like, "Excuse me?" And I'm like, anybody who finds more value in their ideas than the actual execution of them shows me that they're living in about 1920, because ideas are coming a billion miles a second. Yep. The people that are successful are the ones who harness ideas and execute them well. And so, ideas are great, but it's the execution where we all make money.
Yeah, it's like Seinfeld with Kramer. He has an idea every episode.
Exactly.
And it's like, I'm gonna create levels, Jerry. He's like, "No, you're not." It's like, "No, I'm gonna do it." It's like, "I could do it, but you didn't do it." And that's the whole, anyway. I love Seinfeld. But the other thing is also, it's like the idea is nothing, because you'll have an OpenAI comes out, and then Gemini comes out, and then Perplexity comes out, and these are all doing the same idea, but it's who's executing better, and that's who's gonna own the market share down the road.
Well, yeah, and I think ideas are a universe thing. You can call it God, you can call it whatever name you use for God, but like how many times have you or somebody that you closely known seen some product on the market and been like, I invented that 7 years ago.
Yeah.
How did they know about it? It's because the universe gave you the idea. You did nothing with it.
Yeah.
The universe doesn't need more people to accept its ideas. The universe needs more people to execute its ideas.
Yeah.
So when you get that idea that's smart and brilliant, it's not smart and brilliant until it's actually executed and put into practice.
I mean, faith without works is dead, right? So it's like
Exactly.
you gotta work. All right, and so and this is towards. I mean, you work with attorneys, but I think you can speak to a wider range. Is
yeah,
that,
I mean, I don't. I've worked primarily with attorneys for 20 years, not only with attorneys for 20 years.
Yeah, and even before that, you've mentioned you've had a huge career in terms of marketing. But what are some of the for the people that succeed in this medium, whether it be podcasting or marketing in general, what are some of the signs or patterns that show you success versus struggle?
One, understanding that there's no such thing as instant results. People who understand that this is a process, no matter if you're doing PPC, no matter if you're doing SEO, no matter if you're doing now GEO, if you're doing podcasting, whatever it is that you are doing, there is no, like a lot of people come in and they're like, I'm going to do a new marketing program and go get some customers. Like it's a gumball machine. It's like, it's not a gumball machine that you just put a quarter in, boop, a client pops out. So I think that is like when somebody comes in and is just like, okay, like I've had a couple clients and they're like, can I just pay for the year? And I'm like, well, yeah. And they're like, because that way I won't even think about this. I'll just do it for a year, see how it ends up, see what I get out of it. And you know what? All those clients renew. But it's the people during the first 4 months that are like, okay, what is we? And it's like, I told you when we were talking about this process, I say, so during the first 4 months, what you can expect is you'll hear friends, family, extended people from your circle, maybe even a person who almost became a customer come in, but that's an outlier event. But you'll start to hear a little bit of a groundswell. Now, in the second cycle, which we do a 4-month cycle, now in the second cycle, now's when you'll start to see people start to trickle in that you didn't already know. They're a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, and they're coming in as your client. Now, in that fourth quarter or that third cycle, which is now a year into this, now you're going to really start seeing things happening and people calling and showing up places. And most people still, even though you tell them that, 4 months later, they're like, well, we tried it, just podcasting, just it isn't for us, I guess. You know, we did one podcast a month for 4 months, and you know, we got one customer out of it. I don't even understand. And it's like, what is there to understand, man? Like, even The Office. You know, you referenced Seinfeld, which I love Seinfeld, but The Office kind of supplanted it into my heart once it came into being. But like, even The Office, after the first season, they all went home thinking they were going to be canceled.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until some new guy, C-suite guy, came into NBC and said, hey, guys, we're giving you another year, that they were all like, oh, okay, great. We thought we were done. And yet now here it is, probably at least the most viewed show, one of the most popular shows of all time.
Yeah.
And yet you think that you're going to talk about legal stuff for 12 minutes 4 times, and you're going to have 1 billion followers, and you're going to have the most successful legal podcast in all the land? Like, it takes time. It doesn't just happen.
I think the idea of momentum is something that people don't fully grasp. And I think it's like, I mean, the train analogy is the simplest one. It's like starting the train, or the rocket analogy, right? Getting off the ground takes 80% of the fuel, but then it's a lot better. And most people, when it comes to whether it be podcasting or starting a business or doing sales, you know, I remember one sales, like it was a sales conference, and he was like, you know, new salespeople, there's 2 kinds of people. One person who like just starts and eventually they do well, and the ones that struggle or quit, it's like, how many clients you talk to? And it's like 3. And I couldn't sell it because the thing's not sellable. It's always 3. For some reason, the number's always 3. All of these things, anything one starts, you should give yourself a year, because that's the only way. And even for some things, that's not enough. You got to go longer. But for me, when I started podcasting, I was like, all right, 1 year, and then I'll start looking at analytics. Until then, I'm just gonna do it for a year. And that's the way you have to go into it. So yeah, the first type of client is definitely the one that.
Let me give you one more thing, because you asked for something. So one more thing is clients that understand the importance of marketing ecosystems instead of projects. Because so many people market, I have this like little piece that I put together. I'm not sure where it's at yet, but I know it's been written. But I ask, is your marketing a trampoline park or a terrarium? Are you just jumping from one thing to the next and you feel like you're getting somewhere, but you're getting nowhere and nothing's being built and nothing's growing, but you're moving? Or if you're familiar with the terrarium, it takes time, you build the ecosystem, but eventually you close that thing up and it survives all on its own. Mm-hmm. And so many people approach marketing like they just need to jump from one trampoline to the next, instead of building something that feeds off of itself and feeds each other. It's like a podcast in and of itself might not produce clients, especially if you go pure audio, because it's hard to build a following, things like that. But here's what podcasting does. One, it puts you in front of a camera, and you need people to know, like, and trust you as a professional. Number two, it gives you a chance to speak to your expertise. Number three, it puts you in different formats. We put them in 25 plus different places. We build them a YouTube channel. We put them, of course, Apple, Spotify, iHeartMedia, but like any place we could put video, any place we could put audio, we try to put them there. Why? Because it's an ecosystem. Some people think, well, let's go to just Apple. I just want to be on Apple Podcasts because that's 67% of the audio market. And it's like, yeah, but what if only that 67%, 5% of them are your client profile, and in every single other one, 1% of them are your profile, where combined you'd have quadruple the amount, although your reach on one particular – so like people don't see the importance of like being – I say I'm channel agnostic. We put our clients, if they will let us, we put them on Pinterest. We have clients that are killing it on Pinterest, lawyers.
Wow.
You know what I mean? We put them on X. We put them on Blue Sky. We put them on Threads. We put them on Instagram. We put them on LinkedIn. We put them on Facebook. We give them a Twitch channel if they'll let us. Like we do 10 outlets wherever we can put them, because with digital languages, which is, everybody speaks their own little digital language. They speak Facebook. They speak text message. They speak email. They speak LinkedIn. And you're not really going to converse with them outside of that arena. So while not all of your clients, or even demographically speaking, that place is mostly your clients, in every single outlet there is a portion of that is your ideal client. So if you can multiply 5% of a customer opportunity times an extra 10, you've got a 50% increase.
I mean, that's, yeah. I think at least for it's really funny because we just talked about how, you have to try things for a long time. And I have to admit that, initially when I was working on like Instagram or TikTok, it wasn't feeling great for lack of a better word. And so I kind of tapered off of it, but you've inspired me to get back on it, because you're right. It's like you have to keep going because you never know where that client or that listener come from.
I'm not a big fan of LinkedIn, but I spend a ton of time there. And I'm trying to get better. I'm finally starting to see things. And I mean, I've been putting out good stuff, but it's just been, learning that game, because I'm of the opinion LinkedIn is the first true social network that exists. And here's why. LinkedIn doesn't just reward the posters. It also rewards people who comment, add value. So like if I comment on somebody's post, and people who are second and third connections to me like or comment on what I say, that gives me a higher social score within LinkedIn if I do that consistently, which will then increase my reach.
Yeah.
And like most people are used to Facebook, put it there, wait. Instagram, put it there, wait. LinkedIn's a whole different ball game. And part of me doesn't like that. I just want to put it there and walk away. But I see we've gotten 5 or 6 really key relationships out of it, referring relationships. We've probably gotten no less than a dozen clients over the last year out of it. Wow. So it has been by no means a waste of time. Yeah. But for a guy like me who's used to Facebook, Instagram, where I just, hey, look how awesome I am. Don't you want to do business with me? Like, it's just not the LinkedIn way.
Yeah, they work hard to make it not as straightforward. One, because that keeps you on the platform more, which is what they want, but also because it prevents like a lot of bots or, too much automation, things like that. All right, so we're going to jump this is the beginning of the wrap-up phase. So I do this thing called the FAQs, frequently asked questions. The joke is that usually the first few questions aren't frequent. They're different for everybody.
No worries.
For the first one, if you could tell us, what is the minimum viable podcast setup? What is the minimum you need to have a halfway decent looking and sounding podcast?
Depending on your natural light, if you have a tripod and AirPods, and you've got a clear background with some decent natural light, you could use an iPhone if you needed to, in a pinch. Now, if you're asking me for a real podcaster setup, then I would say this is what we tell our clients. You need a good camera. It could be DSLR, it could be HD, whatever it is. You need a good camera. You need good lighting, natural or like what I have, studio lights. So camera, lighting, a good microphone. This is a $300 Shure MV7. In my opinion, best bang for the buck on the market. Some people love it. Some people, they think it's okay. Never really heard a ton of negative about it, but for the most part, I've heard really good things. So $300 microphone. And then for me, like, a lot of people will like put up shelves and have all this like fun little lighting behind them and stuff. Do you know what I have behind me?
What?
An 80-inch screen TV. Simple, clean. I can change the background out. I don't have haloing like what I get. You can still see the layer. I don't have that green screen effect. This can be used because, as I said, we're going to streaming networks. This can be used in a streaming network setting, whereas with green screen, even though it looks good on smaller screens, when you go to a big screen, you'll actually have that halo effect. So I have, let's just put this in, like, I could get an 85-inch TV from Best Buy right now for $700.
Yeah.
So then let's just say another $200 to get it put up. Just unless you're handy and you can put it up yourself, then it's $100. But I always pay people to do that crap. So I've got, let's just say, roughly $1,000, $1,300, $1,450, $1,550, and then whatever. So for less than $2,000 in the room that I'm standing in is what you're seeing. Now my camera is a Sony DSLR 6100, so it's like about $1,000 back in the day. But you can still get like good webcams, things like that, as long as they can frame right and you can change that. So I mean, basically in this room I have conservatively less than or $3,000 or less, and I feel like I have a pretty decent setup.
Having a big screen TV behind you is so genius, and I'm so angry that I haven't heard that before, but it makes so much sense to have like an adaptable background and not have to be green screen, because actually I don't use green screens for that reason. Like currently my real camera is actually in storage and I haven't been able to get to it, so I'm using a different one right now. But generally a lot of people are like, oh, why don't you use a green screen? And I was like, I can't stand it, because either haloing or if I sneeze real quick and you'll see some random stuff in the background, and it's just like not that I
especially if you wear headphones, it'll do that thing where the headphones don't show but around it does. So yeah, the TV works, and hey, listen, I didn't come up with this. There's a guy who does this product called On Screen Authority. Okay. And the only reason I set it up on my own is basically I reached out to him and he's like, hey dude, I can't ship anything to Belize. Like, here's what you can do. Good luck. Yeah. And I was like, thanks. And so I cobbled together what I needed. And then I had a photographer, videographer come in and kind of help me with set up the lighting and things. So yeah, I mean, it's not a couple of my hosts, at least one this week, I'm sending a TV 85 inches so that he can start interviewing clients with it behind them. Wow. So it's a very simple 2 lights, camera, mic, TV, you're done.
I mean, if you want to send me a TV too, feel free. No.
What do you sell it for?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Provide value and I bring value. That's what I tell my team. The moment you provide value, I want to give it back to you.
I love that. I love that. All right. We kind of talked about this before. So the question I was going to ask, how long before someone should expect to see results from content marketing? If someone, and I generally, don't think you should go into anything with sort of a deadline, but if you were to put some sort of a, when should you look up and think about, is this working for me or not?
I think it depends on the strategy. If you've got a shorts and reels person who's going to post 30 shorts and reels a day and promise you that in 60 days you'll get a new client and kill the algorithm, obviously that's vastly different than something like a slow grow show that you can market the show, but you still have to develop two things that are going to help. And either one of them will help, both of them will help tremendously. One, if you can develop your own following, but that's challenging. I mean, like, who's like, hey, what's your favorite injury lawyer podcast? Like, no one asks that, right? So that's a little harder. But if you can build up the clout within like the GPT systems or the LLM models and then SEO, we're already showing like our clients are being cited in LLM results where it's like this, and this, click here, and then it'll click to my client's video. So being cited in LLM results, all of that sort of stuff. So if you're trying to go that route, it's going to, you got to flood it. It's going to take some time. So I'd say on the low end, an aggressive campaign, 90 days. A regular flowing campaign, a natural campaign that isn't just, like I said, putting 30 to 50 videos a day out and things like that, but a natural cadence of 1 to 3 posts a day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 4 shows a month. You probably want to start looking around the 6 to 9 month mark to at least start seeing some things pop off for you.
I love that. All right. All right. So what is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Give me a second.
Take your time.
Maybe I just don't listen to advice. That's why I can't remember.
Well, you can supplement that question with what's your favorite quote or a quote.
The best thing I've ever said. No. I'll just give you this just to be funny. Only a fool quotes himself. DM Meador.
I love that.
I love to put that sometimes on people's stuff. I'll be like, only a fool would quote himself. - me.
I think people. It goes over a lot of heads, but no, I love that. I'm gonna quote you, and then I'm gonna quote myself under it when I say it. So
like the Michael Scott quote, the Wayne
exactly.
Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Yeah,
fair enough.
All right, what's the best investment you've ever made?
The best investment I have ever made has been in people. Just mentoring people. I've mentored people for quite a while now. I didn't really have a mentor. I was contrarian within my own very religious right group of people. I was contrarian when I got out of that religious group of people. So being able to, what I tell people is, I try to be the person that I wish I had in my life when I went through something like what they're going through. Mm-hmm. So for me, the best investment, and listen, just like any investment, some of them weren't great. But when I see somebody who at one time they were struggling financially, emotionally, mentally, with their housing situation, whatever, and then a year or two later, I see them making good money. I see them in a good place. I see them, and I'm not taking credit completely, but to be a part of that process of shifting their mind frame and helping them come into a place in life where they're happy, that's by far the best thing I've ever invested in, many times over.
I love that. And okay, so the last FAQ is, what is a book that you gift the most, or your favorite book?
That's pretty easy. The Obstacle is the Way, Ryan Holiday.
Love that.
Stoicism. I feel like if you don't have, I was very religious, kind of let go of that, and I came to a time my marriage was on the rocks. Now with my ex-wife, my brother-in-law, who was my best friend, who married my sister when she turned 18, she was pregnant with she had 2 kids and was pregnant with her third, and he died in a work accident. So, all of these like major things happened within just a 2-3 month period. And that book helped me not lose myself in that moment, because it would have been easy to just kind of mentally lose where it would have been easy to let go and just kind of go to a place where I wasn't available mentally or emotionally. But that book helped me through that.
It's Ryan Holiday's wonderful, and I fell into him because of Tim Ferriss, who's like the original one of the original podcasters.
Same thing. My life is built off a 4-hour work week that I read in my 20s, like some of the main principles. That's why I talk about traveling, and I mean, my whole team, 50 people. They're Africa, Pakistan, Philippines, Venezuela, Mexico, you name it. Like there's all over, and then a lot in the United States as well. But like, to me, like Tim Ferriss helped me establish kind of my business philosophies back when I was younger. And then Ryan Holiday has kind of helped me establish my emotional philosophy. Stoicism, CBT is based off of it. I've been in therapy for 10 years. I'm not ashamed to admit that. Like I am what you see as a result of a lot of work and a lot of people helping me work through things.
Oh, love that. Yeah, no, and it's funny because I haven't read that book in probably years now. It's definitely time for me to get back into it because The Obstacle's the Way. It's a great book. All right, so as we're wrapping up, let's jump into what is next. What is next for you? You mentioned a little bit about what's next for the Legal Podcast Network, but yeah, what's next?
So I'm very clear with my team, kind of my goal, and just the way I'm building my company. I'm building it so that eventually I want to be able to just once a week, look at my reports, meet with my directors. It's probably going to take me about 6 or 7 years. By that time, I hope to be living somewhere in Southeast Asia. So there's kind of two parallels. This company, with the expansion and the things that we have, I believe that we can get to about $15 to $20 million, about 2,500 to 3,000 clients. Really think that that's very, very doable. Especially if now that we've driven deep with legal, we've got our systems basically in place. Once we finish that, now we go wide. We start adding other professionals and things like that. So by year 3, we're hoping to have our first, 3 years from now, we're hoping to have had our first child. That child will be ready to travel. We're going to spend a few years Central and South America, possibly moving to Meador, Mexico, because it's easier to travel out of. And they have better health care there. Then from Meador, Mexico, or something like that, and Central and South America, after we've seen everything, then we're going to go over to like Europe, maybe Portugal, especially if they still have the digital nomad stuff that's so prevalent. Spend about 3 to 5 years there, see everything there, then eventually end up in Southeast Asia, build a home, kind of settle there, and then make that sort of like our springboard to travel the rest of our life. So we kind of have about a 15-year plan for traveling, then to end up, and then I've got about a 7-year plan for my company.
I love that, and I love it how it's all like planned out, and that's the way to do it. Well, yeah, where can we learn more about you and your company?
So I'm going to give you 2 websites, and then obviously LinkedIn is a great place to connect in today's day and age. If you're a professional, I try to offer a lot of value there. Got content, got videos. It's not just, hey, hire me. It's more just like business principles. We cut up like all my podcasts like this, where I'm talking about just different things about life and principles, and use that. And then written content as well, articles and stuff that I write. I have a website that should launch this week, dmondemand.expert. And that is basically, I'm a podcast network founder, I'm a podcast guest, and I'm a podcast host. And it's those 3 aspects of who I am and what I do. And so you can kind of connect with me in those 3 ways, easy. And then if you're interested in possibly working with me, and especially if you're in the legal field currently or down the road, I mean, it is September of 2025. So if you're reading this in 2027, then I should also have the Professional Media Network. So if you're listening or watching this then, but check us out, legalpodcastnetwork.com. We'll always keep that URL. If it forwards to the Legal Media Network, don't get nervous. It's still the same people.
Awesome. All right. So you want to leave the audience with a closing message?
Sure. I think that, with a lot of the things we've talked about with, life and tech and things like that, and business owners, and I've kind of heard a little bit of a recurring theme of like, okay, DM, we're not you. What do we do? And I don't mean that in like an egotistical way. It's just kind of like, we're not going to just jump out there 5 months from our wedding and start a brand new company with, a little bit of money, and your wife going, our wedding's in 5 months. So like, what do we do? Is I would say, if you feel like you have an idea that you really believe in, then ask yourself, how much do you really believe in that? Because we can all say we believe in something, but like you alluded to earlier, faith without works is dead. If we don't act upon it, don't let that idea go back out into the universe and see it 3 years later. Because I think anybody watching this who's any sort of like has a business mind on things, you've at least had one time in your life where you said, somebody should do this. And then when they did it, they hit it big. And you said to yourself, why didn't I do it? Remember that the next time you say somebody should do this. Don't wait around. Jump out and do it.
Awesome. All right. So for everyone listening at home, don't wait around. Jump out and do it.